Hello world and welcome. My name is Mark and today I'm excited to introduce you to Mike Ferfolia. Mike is an in-demand vocalist and bassist who splits his time between session work, live music venues, private and corporate events, as well as live concerts across North America. Welcome, Mike.
Great to be here, man. Great to be talking to you.
Before we get into our conversation, I'd love for people to hear you. Why don't we play a little clip from your YouTube channel? Which tune do you think you'd like to listen to?
I'm not picky. You got a couple clips there of some Sting stuff, some Sting and Police stuff.
Yeah.
Do you have the clip of "If You Love Somebody, Set Them Free"?
I do. Let's grab that.
If you want to keep something precious, you gotta lock it up and throw away the key. Wanna hold on to your possessions, don't even think about it. If you love somebody, if you love someone, if you love somebody, if you love someone, set them free.
Wow.
Nice.
Yeah, really nice. Really nice.
I love that song just because I mean, if anyone looks up, they'll find my my Sting Police tribute thing. But that record, "Dream of the Blue Turtles," which of course the record opens with that song. It's always been near and dear to my heart. And I will say that once I do these videos, I don't listen to them. I don't go back to them. I upload them. I forget about it. I don't react to comments very often because I don't like doing that stuff. It just makes me hear myself. Not always partial to that sort of thing, but yeah, it sounded pretty good. Way to go, me.
Way to go, you. Well, I have listened to pretty much everything on all your different posts, and they sound great, and I often play them for other people as well. So I'm glad you put them there. We'll definitely talk about that channel a little bit later too, but first let's get into the question of how did you get into music?
Oh man. My father is musical, still is musical, of course, and he was playing gigs on guitar and a little bit on bass as well because he could read really, really well. And so guys would call him to fill in for guitar or bass chairs in like local bands and whatnot, and orchestra pits as well, because again, he had those sort of reading chops. And he was forced at one point in time by my grandparents, as a lot of people in that generation were, to give it up, essentially get a real job, as one would say. But he always made a point of instilling the love of music and sort of the curiosity for music and curiosity specifically for different styles of music. He would sit me down. I remember one of my earliest memories, sitting down with him on the couch at our house in Brantford, where I began my life. And he'd sit down and play bass guitar for me. Oh yeah, and then these guys will play it like this, and this style of music goes like this, and he would just play me a bunch of different things. So he was quick to instill the love and the curiosity for music in me. And it didn't take very much longer after that for him and my stepmom to realize that I had the ears to do it. I had a good sense, and so yeah, I was put into music lessons and whatnot, and sort of forgot about it. Always sang. I sang myself to sleep almost every night for a long time, much to the chagrin of my mother and my older brother. Like, I wish you would shut up.
You weren't singing quietly, I take it.
Well, I would hide under my covers and sing my favorite tunes and stuff because I just really enjoyed it. And I wasn't often actually told to shut up, which was great. So maybe it was just that good, or maybe the covers were enough of an acoustic blanket for the occasion. But yeah, I always loved singing, and in high school I started my first ever vocal group with some friends of mine. And that led me to eventually, I feel like it was very much a default when it came time to choose the college route. It's like, well, I could either go into like a business admin program, which, just about anyone can get into from the sounds of things, no offense. But I mean, what it would have led me to was working for my father in his now office, right? Because he essentially gave up his dream. But thankfully, because he gave up his dream, he saw the opportunity to allow me to live out that dream. So it was applied to Mohawk College in Hamilton for business, or audition for the music programs, which I did both at Mohawk College and to Humber College in Toronto. And I always loved the challenge. So Mohawk was great. It was a nice audition. The great people there, and there was a lot of great players that came out of Mohawk College. And the dean sat me down at the end of my audition and said, "Listen, you're in. If you want it, you're in. No problem." And the guys at Humber, the head of the vocal department there, was like, "Okay, we'll call you." And for me, that was like, oh, okay. So there's a sense of exclusivity here, and if this is something that I get into, this is really good. So when the offer came in, I was like, that's it. So from that point on, really, I mean, grade 13 in high school, which is what was still happening when I was younger.
Mm-hmm.
I was like, okay, well, this music thing it's going to get serious now. Might as well take it seriously and learn a few things. And again, I already kind of had a natural gift for it, I guess. Like theory came naturally to me. Singing and melody came naturally to me. Distinguishing parts especially was very, very natural to me. So yeah, it was, that's kind of where the beginning of my career, like, making money playing music began.
When you auditioned for both these colleges, it was strictly as a vocalist? As a vocalist,
yeah. The bass thing came much later. Bass thing, came along in Humber. I was already in school, and I was hanging between my dad's place and my mom's place, and out at college out in Toronto here. And at one point, my dad, who was still playing sometimes on the weekends, would have rehearsals for polka bands.
Mm-hmm.
So he was playing traditional, like, German and Slovenian polka music or folk music. And so a lot of German polkas, Slovenian polkas, like Eastern European traditional stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And during one of these rehearsals, I can remember specifically, he yelled for me to come upstairs. I'm sitting on the computer. I don't care. I'm just playing games or doing whatever I'm doing there because I'm left to my own devices with an internet connection. And he had a button box accordion player over at the house, and they were rehearsing. And he said, "Hey, we need bass. Here, just take this bass. Here's 1, here's 5. Go." And I chugged along until, of course, the first change came along, and I fell apart. He said, "Okay, well, you can hear how this is sort of integral to what we're doing. We could really use a bass player. So this is something you need to start thinking about." And then he sent me off on my merry way, and that was kind of the beginning of it. And it was just polkas. It was like, right, that sort of thing.
Yeah.
And that was the basis. That was the beginning of the bass playing thing. And then when I got to Humber, of course, there's any number of resources that you can pull from, be it, either instructors who are feeling generous with their time, or which, I mean, all of them really were, to be honest with you, and other students, like other friends that you interacted with along the way throughout the day. Okay, hey, show me how to play a major scale. Okay, cool. So now how would you do the minor scale? And, you start going through the basics of it, and eventually you kind of gain some knowledge. And I never had the formal instruction in bass. It's kind of like a bit of a regret, I guess, that I didn't sort of chase it a little bit more, because I was so caught up in singing, and the gigs came easily singing, and the bass thing didn't really become important until some of my gigs started to disappear, honestly. So, and that was when people started calling, because they'd known that I was playing a little bit. And I started getting the phone call. And I remember one specifically came from a friend of mine I was singing in his band quite a bit. And he just said straight up, "Hey, man, can you sing or play and sing an entire night?" And I said, no, I can't. And then he's like, "Okay, well, I'll talk to you later." And I remember thinking at that point, I should maybe think about this,
And you do love a challenge.
I do. Like, I like being pushed out of my comfort zone. Sometimes falling flat on my face in front of people is a great way to get me or a great way to motivate me. Mm-hmm. It certainly worked. I can think of a lot of instances where I, in front of an audience, being paid to play music for people, and then trying something and failing miserably. And having those memories, those sort of like trauma, those incidents of trauma, like into my head. So yeah, I think about that stuff often. I think like, oh man, what if that happened today? But like, I think that the important thing in that, especially, is, and one of the reasons too that I don't like watching my videos again is or listening to myself too often, is that like I always think I can do better now, like that's who I used to be, or that's where I used to be, and I like I kind of like that feeling. Like, am I still growing? Because I mean, if we don't grow, then something's wrong, I think, or you maybe need to find something else to do.
Great. And I'm just you hit me with that thing about train wrecks, and I'm thinking of my own things. I'm saying, and I'm just like going, oh no, I remember.
We all have them, yeah, man.
I remember what that felt like, and I think the most important thing is when you get into one of those situations, you have to be able to just start again. Sometimes the next song, right afterwards, and say, okay, now I have another chance. Let's see if I can do better immediately.
Absolutely. I mean, I'm sure we could both share stories until the cows come home, man. But like what I would always tell my students when I was teaching, I don't do that so much these days, is it's like everybody makes mistakes. The best musicians in the world make mistakes. And what separates you from, or separates those guys from, us plebs down here who aren't perfect, like the Rich Browns and all those guys who are super unique sounding and, have their own thing, is their ability to recover from mistakes, right? We're all going to make them. It's just that you have to stay in the moment, you have to recover, and you have to keep going, right? Because that was a staple, especially becoming a bass player late and not really having, again, that formal instruction. I never really found myself in those situations. Like, I would make mistakes and it would be the end of my day. Honestly, it would ruin the rest of the gig. And only really like in the last, I know you know exactly what I'm talking about.
I do, and that's why I'm cringing a little bit.
Yeah, like we should each share. I would love to hear one of your stories of one of those times, and I can totally share one from my life as well.
Okay,
I kind of want to challenge you to do that right now, because you're thinking of something.
I'll give you a story.
Please,
I'll give you a story. So this was when I was getting into Brazilian music. And I met a musician named Carla, and she had a little group, and she had not even heard me play before. She just knew I liked the music, and we had some friends in common. And she said, "We're doing this other gig, next week. Why don't you come and play?" And I said, "Okay." And she gave me a couple of tunes to learn. One of them was, there was a guy in town who was a very famous guy and had a beautiful arrangement of a really hard song. And she said, "Let's play that one." And then, of course, I picked another one that was easy enough that I could probably play it okay. And this is really when I was just beginning. And I really studied hard. I really spent a lot of time trying to learn both the tunes, especially the hard tune. And when it came down to the night, that first tune that we played was a train wreck. It was. I mean, I could hear the hoo hoo, and the whole thing. Like, it was. I was crestfallen. I was just like, I can't believe I'm even doing this right now. It was so bad. I don't know if anyone else thought it was so bad, but I certainly knew it was. And I know they knew it was as well. So, but then, luckily, I had my plan B, so I just kind of, took a deep breath and say, "Oh, let's play this other tune now." And they agreed. And the recovery tune, it actually was beautiful. It was a beautiful moment. So I kind of had both. I kind of had both moments at the same time.
Yeah, that's cool.
But obviously, hearing you talk about your story made me think right back to that moment where I thought the world was ending, and my career as a Brazilian music guitarist was over. So
yeah, I feel like any musician worth their salt can think it. Like, anyone watching right now who plays, I'm sure is like, oh god, that one time. For me, I don't know how I found myself playing bass at you probably remember Joe Mama's down on King Street
absolutely.
in Toronto.
Mm-hmm.
I guess there was weekly gigs that were happening there because I was there singing with Suga on Fridays and Saturdays.
I remember that band.
Yeah, it was a fun band. And that spun off into some weekday things, Wednesdays and Thursdays and whatnot. And somehow I wound up on one of these sort of B nights, if you want to call it that, playing bass and doing a little bit of singing. And I'll never forget. I don't want to drop too many names or anything like that. Not that it's like a huge thing, but Michael Shand was there. You probably know Michael.
Mm-hmm.
Brilliant keyboard player, arranger. He's actually become quite a good guitar player. Like anything that guy sets his mind to, he becomes excellent at.
I heard him play last time I was in town. He played some great guitar.
Oh, absolutely. So, I mean, this was years ago. I wouldn't be able to place the year, but I was playing bass on like a Wednesday night at Joe Mama's. I forget who else was in the band, but Michael and his wife were sitting there across the bar watching me. And they're thinking, oh, okay, cool. Yeah, Ferfolia is playing bass on this gig. He's doing a little bit of singing. Great. Good for him. Again, like the Dock of the Bay is a lovely day. Sure, why not? The Let's Stay Together's. Okay, great. Someone threw me a solo. And as they watched, I thought it would be a good idea to do the, like, I can scat what I'm playing solo thing.
Mm-hmm.
It failed miserably.
No.
And I remember, like, if I had a turtle shell right now, I could disappear into that until everyone went home. And, but, you know, I couldn't. And I know, like, in my heart of hearts, I can't remember any more specifically than that moment of realizing that I went out on a limb, the limb broke, I am on the ground, bloody and crying, and one of the greatest musicians I've ever played with, and his wife, who's also quite a good singer and quite a good musician in her own right, were watching me do it. And yeah, I have that in my head, and it plays and repeats sometimes. But you know, the rest of the gig had to happen somehow. I don't, you know.
I mean, the idea is if you can get up after that and continue on.
That's the thing, yeah. And at that time, no. Like I mean, I'm sure I went on with the rest of the night and just kind of like my playing became very timid and I couldn't get past that. And of course, Michael and everyone in the bar would have been very gracious and been very kind. But yeah, that's something that lives in infamy in my memory. All right. Thankfully, those moments don't really happen anymore too much. Yeah, every once in a while we come close.
It's good to at least have had that experience.
Oh yeah,
it helps. It's a growth kind of thing.
It's one of the best ways to learn, as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah,
absolutely.
I was going to ask you, how did you get from the studying at Humber? And you just to say, you graduated with honors, right?
Ooh, yeah, I did.
Well, I you know, it's on your website.
Okay, yeah. I just like that stuff. It's funny. I always used to think when I was at Humber that, you know, eventually you're out of this sort of, you know, microcosm of the music industry and you start to sort of pave your way in the world and worrying, like actively worrying about like maintaining some form of relevance. Which is not so much a thing anymore. I mean, you kind of just, everyone ends up doing their own thing and it's special in its own way and you're unique and that's what you need to lean into. Humber was cool and it was a grades thing. I mean, it was like anything academic that had anything to do with music. I'm in there, man. Like I got good grades in theory. I got good grades in ear training and whatnot. Yeah, I got a diploma that says with honors. I guess that just means my average is above like 85 or something like that. But I mean,
well, it's a feather in your hat. It's great.
Sure. Yeah. It really, it only means though that again, like I left and I sought out my own place and I was worried about stagnating. I was worried about my own relevance in a scene and that sort of, that came naturally, thankfully. Like everything, like, you know, opportunities were presented to me and I was prepared. One of my really good friends says, you know, luck favors the prepared. And I was prepared in a lot of ways. So,
yeah. And yeah. I was going to ask you that, like the Toronto music scene, I'm going to say is not an easy scene to be in, at least for most people. And yet you somehow, I mean, how did you do it? How did you find the people to play with, get those opportunities, be prepared? How did that happen?
Preparedness really started, I think, probably in my second year at Humber. So there was a group of guys who had an established bar band. They weren't even in Toronto. It was like Kitchener-Waterloo. So anyone who's not familiar, like probably like an hour to hour and a half west of Toronto. They had an established band. They had gigs. They were working lots. You know, it was like at least, you know, 2-3 weekends a month. And their singer left the band. He just decided he wanted to go into a different direction. Everyone was still amicable, and these are all guys that I know and went to school with. So they had a trio left over and no singer. So at that point, I had been singing in a horn band that was doing a lot of popular music, like horn band music, Tower of Power, Earth, Wind and Fire, Chicago, all that sort of stuff, and the popular sort of R&B funk stuff that typically circulate the horn band, the ensemble groups in that situation, or those sort of like levels of college. So I'd been doing all these party tunes in college already. So they're like, okay, hymn, we're going to do Kiss, we're going to do September, we're going to do Give It To Me Baby, we're going to do, X, Y, Z, we're going to do all the classic R&B stuff that I'd already been learning again, like the Let's Stay Together, the Sitting on the Dock of the Bay, the Just the Two of Us, all those tunes. So I just fell into their gigs, essentially. We had a couple rehearsals, and we went through some things, and then we were working like the next weekend because they had a gig that they needed a singer for. They had to staff it, and so we prepared and we got there. So I think that was actually in between my first and second year of Humber that summer, and then Humber became so much easier from that point because I already had a direction. I was like, oh, I can work and I can make some money, and so. I think from second to third year was when kind of everything exploded. So now whenever someone said in a class, oh, you need to prepare 3 tunes to go for this class next week. Mm-hmm. No problem.
You already had 30 tunes.
Yeah. I'm gonna throw a stone and find the players that I want to play with me on this, and just go to town on this little assignment, right? And that was the way things sort of went. It was like, oh, who wants to go first for this performance assignment? Right here, I'm good to go. Do you know this, and this? Okay, great. You. And so that was the beginning of the preparedness. So the way that developed then was there was at the time, this would have been like in 2001, 2002, there was a jam that happened every Monday night at a club called Revival. I'm sure you know the VIP jam. They called it the VIP jam, for the uninitiated here, that if you got up and you sucked, the DJ played a gong sound. And then you had to vacate the stage and tuck your tail between your legs and, maybe buy a drink and leave. And I got up to play, and because I'd already been singing I Wish, 3 nights a week, I got up and I sang I Wish with these guys who were established, and like it went well, and I just kept coming back. I don't think I missed a Monday night at Revival for about 3 years. Maybe 1 or 2 if I wasn't feeling well, but I just let people know who I was, and I didn't stop getting in their faces. So eventually the calls would come in like, okay, hey, we need someone who knows tunes, who's reliable, will show up. And I was getting hired by these guys that I was jamming with. And at one point it even came to, we need a whole band to fill this gig here. And that was one of the first regular things I had in Toronto, and I was able to put my band that started playing Kitchener-Waterloo Guelph into some Toronto clubs. And we already had our shtick worked out, like everything was kind of there, right? So we cut our teeth doing all the bar gigs out west, and so we started getting gigs in the Toronto area because like, hey, we need to fill this, and we need anybody now. Cool, well, we're here, and we're pretty good. So that led to a few other things, like a few session things. The session things led to a whole other world in that some of the demos I was doing were kind of making the rounds in and among sort of the label guys who were trying to demo stuff for artists and whatnot, and ended up being approached because they heard things that they liked, and like, I need someone with that kind of voice to sing on stuff. And like singing and tracking was always something that came naturally to me when I was in my mom's basement in Stony Creek, Ontario. Like, I figured out how to like multi-track my voice and layer stuff because I found, vocal harmonies like Boyz II Men stuff. I found that fascinating. Mm-hmm. So I did my best to sort of emulate that and try to recreate those things. So the studio thing was very natural. They would come in, some guys, a really good friend of mine, one of my first really good friends in Toronto, his name is Colin Barrett, a fantastic bass player as well, and a brilliant producer. He had me come in to sing some vocals on some pop tracks, some background vocals. So that's how that came about. And there was a summer that I was basically living at Colin's studio, just tracking for a boy band that was doing their thing. And then I started doing some gigs out with him and his brother Tony as well, because they're, again, fantastic players. so that was like the Toronto thing sort of happened organically at a really good time. You know, there was lots of jams, there was lots of opportunities to be visible. Luck favors the prepared, and I got lucky. I was at the right place at a lot of the right times.
Yeah, and getting prepared. So when you started doing your bass and you started to I've been looking at your list of tunes.
Yeah.
And it's extensive. How did you figure out those tunes? Because you didn't take formal lessons.
No.
And what was your process to do that? Was it all ear? Was it what?
Yeah, a lot of it was just ear, right? Like I remember
give me an example.
Yeah, of course. One of the first things that, like when Sugar was playing a lot, we would constantly be throwing ideas at each other and ways to do songs differently or ways to sort of mash things up, like to create sort of segues and whatnot. Let me eject a cat from here, by the way.
Okay.
Say bye, Gordon.
Bye, Gordon.
Whoops. It's all right.
No problem.
Yeah, you can edit that out or not. There's nothing shameful about having to evict a cat from my room.
Well, Gordon needed to make an appearance. That's why they were there.
Named after Gordon Sumner, of course. By the way, cat.
Of course.
Yeah. Freddie might be here as well, named after Freddie Mercury, who is my wife's favorite artist of all time. So where were we? Bass. So Sugar, we would challenge each other to come up with sort of different things and different ideas. We would sometimes do things on the fly on stage. I would start singing something different, or the guys would start playing something, and we would naturally segue into things. And one of the guys had an idea. It was actually Seku's idea, the drummer. He had the idea to play Eleanor Rigby over Billie Jean. And so I remember just messing around with this at home. I wasn't really playing and singing very much at that point, but one of the bass lines figured out, right? So, and I found that like constant feel things like this, or like songs like I Wish, I could sing and play really easily. So Seiko was like, yeah, let's do Eleanor Rigby over Billie Jean. Try it out. And I just picked up the bass. I started doing this and like, oh, okay, maybe I can kind of do this. Eleanor Rigby picks up the rice in the church where a wedding has been. Lives in a dream, waits at the window, wearing a face that she keeps in a jar by the door. Who is it for? All the lonely people. Where do they all come from? All the lonely people. Where do they all belong? Right, she was more like a bee. Anyway, so on and so forth. Yeah.
That's amazing. I love those. I actually keep a little notebook of mashup ideas like that. That just come to me every so often. I go, write it down.
Yeah. We got to give Sekou credit for that one. He was the one that came up with that. And then there was a few others. I'll drop that one every once in a while when I'm playing in my trio sets. But really, when Joe Mama's, like when that whole scene started to essentially just start to fall apart, like the King Street was just sort of the subject of some major condo developments. There was a huge parking lot across from Joe Mama's. I'm sure you might remember back in the day. And some developers caught wind that like, oh, we can build on this thing and we can charge people a lot more for parking and we can have residents in this building. So anyway, you get where I'm going with this whole thing. So a lot of things changed very, very quickly. And, places like Joe Mama's or Gabby's was the bar that was right next to Joe Mama's. And they had like a brilliant piano, like solo pianist, every Friday and Saturday. Like we would go out on our breaks and watch these people play and they were fantastic. Like, but all these bars, they couldn't keep up anymore because the landscape was changing so much. Like all of a sudden there was condos where there was like accessible parking and all this stuff. And then I think Joe Mama's was done by the time the King Street pilot project started, which was when they forced or they directed all traffic away from King Street for more than a block or something like that. Yeah. And it's it's still ongoing, right? So you can't really park on that strip anymore. So yeah, it kind of, they put the kibosh on a lot of like the really great, like lively night spots. And that's not to say there's not other stuff in the city. There really is, and there's still some venues that are doing really, really well for themselves. But that, like, my world kind of disappeared, almost like overnight. I still remember like very vividly, like going to Joe Mama's last night. I wasn't playing there. I finished whatever wedding gig I was doing, and I came down to like watch the last gig that happened at Joe Mama's. And that was just like, okay, it's sink or swim time, man. Like figure out something to do. And I was already getting those calls, like I'd mentioned, from good buddies of mine saying, hey, can you play and sing a night yet? Like, no, but I should really start working on this. So that's what I did. I kind of sat down and looked at like the repertoire that we were doing at Joe Mama's and some stuff beyond, and some stuff that I kind of wanted to do myself that I didn't think, it's sort of like when an artist goes solo. Like I'm not going to be able to do this in the band that I'm in, but if I do something of my own, maybe I can try this. But like, the first things were like, sitting in the morning sun, I'll be sitting when the evening comes, right? All that stuff. Or when I wake up in the morning, love, and the sunlight hits my eyes, right? All that. The Billie Jeans, the I Wishes. I was saying that one of the easiest things to sort of navigate while playing and singing was anything with a constant feel. So like, right, I can have a conversation over this, and this is fine. So this was really cool. So I started like working on stuff like this. Looking back on when I was a little fluffy headed boy. I can't say nappy. I can't do it. Not in good conscience. Then my only worry was for Christmas what would be my toy. Right, so on and so forth. So yeah, so the repertoire just started building. I mean, I'm way better and way more fluid at it now, but you can imagine someone just like, I have no choice to do this. Any of the gigs that I was singing at, I can do Jewish weddings all day, and that community's been amazing, or Italian weddings, and there's always lots of those circulating. And it's a great way to make a living and cut your teeth having to do multiple things in a night, which I really, really enjoy. But yeah, when it came down sort of the club thing and like the real, like, the workout gigs, those were disappearing. So there was a really good friend of mine named Jeff Eager, who was doing some regular gigs downtown, and he had some duo partners, and one guy in particular that took off to East Asia to take some hotel gigs, which are awesome. And he was looking for duo partners, so he had me in on some stuff, and that was really kind of one of the beginnings of like, okay, I better be able to play Sitting on the Dock of the Bay. I'd better really be able to play like Ain't No Sunshine. I don't need to be able to solo on stuff. I just need to be able to play bass lines and be supportive. So that was kind of the start. Of course, our mutual friend Chris Rouse, he was always good to invite anybody up stages. He's always been super, super generous. I don't see him too much anymore, which is unfortunate. I love that guy, but he gave me a lot of opportunities. So that's kind of how the bass thing began. I would say sort of like in the mid 2000s, where okay, I'm out of options here. I need to be able to do two things at once, otherwise I might not work enough to to afford my video gaming habit at the time, basically. Right? So
motivation
never hurts.
Never hurts.
Yeah, man.
Never hurts. It's in listening to some of the stuff you said. First of all, the bass line to I Wish, it's a groove, but I think most beginning bass players would be like, that's a little too hard for me to play. It almost for sure, but at the same time, it's not that easy to play. You're playing it, and it feels like butter. But
well, thank you.
I think most players starting out would take some time to get that groove and to keep it, let alone sing over it.
Yeah, well, I did this last night too. I played and sang a whole night on a fretless bass last night. So I mean, it's kind of just where I'm at now. I would say that, yeah, like things like that, even if you're just playing like, what's the Sly and the Family Stone tune that I don't really ever do that. Ooh, sha, sha, we gotta live together. Right? That sort of stuff like that. And the idea is the pulse. Strong week, strong week, strong week, strong week. And that's something like that sort of feel thing, or just being like observing that feel, has helped me a lot as a bass player. I mean, so if you're talking about guys beginning to play and like, don't worry about singing yet, especially if that's not your goal. It certainly helps if you want to be more employable, but like that pulse is something you really have to live with and sort of live in and be in at any given time, right? That's the bass player's job. And I think like, again, whether it's like getting into Humber as opposed to Mohawk, like that challenge always kind of, it excites me, you know, like can I make this feel really, really good? And that starts with a metronome too, right? Like making a metronome feel good, I think is one lesson that I gleaned from Humber and some guys, even like in Sugar, like, yeah, make a metronome feel really good. And then you can talk about playing with people, you know?
Carol Kay actually did some video lessons on that.
Oh yeah, of course she did.
Where she demonstrated how to make a metronome feel good. Because if you can't make the metronome feel good, you're not playing right.
That's not fair, Carol Kay, though. She just makes everything feel good. She's amazing.
She is amazing.
Yeah.
And you know, I don't know if anyone has said this to you before, but I'll say it, which is I think part of the reason why you really got so many gigs and you had opportunities is that you really pay attention to how to play the song right. In other words, you're not just playing the chords, you're not just kind of fudging the feel and kind of like it's good enough. You don't play good enough is what I'm getting at. You actually put a lot of thought and effort into doing it right, and so it's something that people really want to listen to because the bass is integral. Like if the bass isn't right, the song isn't happening.
Yeah, and like I said, that's something that really attracted me as sort of a challenge, right? Like it's difficult to play bass well. Like, yeah, you're only playing one note at a time, but that note has to feel a certain way, right? Because there's all kinds of ways of displacing the way you're playing over the beat that are stylistic, right? And if you're not aware of how that stuff works, then you might not be servicing the material. And that's one of my favorite things about one of my bass heroes, of course, is Pino Palladino. It's got to serve the music, and he's said that a few times. It's got to serve the music. It's got to be the right thing for the bag. And that's also something that came up a lot as a session singer. Like you would audition for things. I would audition for commercials all the time, and you get like maybe somewhere less than 5% of whatever you audition for. Right? If you're not the right voice or not the right player for the gig, then the gig isn't for you. And there's no harm or foul in that. It's not an attack on your character, especially as a session singer. Like singers can get destroyed by that because you can't change your instrument out at the end of the day. So if someone says you're not right for this, they're almost directly attacking. It can almost feel like they're directly attacking your person. And that's not the case. It's just, you got to have the right person for the gig at all times. But, and there's certainly been some times where I've been misled and not through anyone's fault of my own, playing with fantastic bass players. Like I mentioned, Rich Brown, of course, he's like a Canadian gem. He's one of the most unique bass voices probably in the entire world, and he deserves every last bit of success that he's got. And I know he plays a lot, and he's super unique sounding. I was on stage with him at those revival jams every Monday for like nearly 3 years. I maybe missed 3 of those Mondays. So I got to listen to this really high level bass playing and thinking that like, oh, that's how you do it. Maybe eventually. Calvin, the bass player in Sugar, was another great example of that. Like he was one of those guys that like he just never stopped exploring in some of these tunes, in some of these cases. And Sugar was an excellent vehicle for that. We were all exploring and all trying to like kick each other's asses and burn the roof down at all times. But they would play super busy. So there was certainly a time where I would pick up the bass and think that like, oh, that's the way you got to do it. You got to like, it's not bump 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 da 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 Right, it's not that. It's literally and like 5 minutes later, you'd better be doing that, because it just feels good. And I feel like that's the way, like from everything I've experienced as a singing bass player, especially in the last 2-3 years when I feel like my ability level has gotten to a really good point. That's what really connects with the audiences. And then as far as like serving tunes and whatnot, tribute gigs have been amazing for that.
Speaking of tribute gigs, let's throw in another clip here.
Okay.
And then we're going to talk about that. So I've been having so much fun. I forgot exactly what we played at the beginning.
We played If You Love Somebody, Set Them Free. Yeah.
Okay. I'm having too much fun.
I love it.
Yeah. Okay. So let's go back for a minute here. I'm going to play If I Ever Lose My Faith in You.
Let's do it.
That's such a great tune. Let me grab that tune here and tee that up here.
You could say I lost my belief in the Holy Church. You could say I lost my sense of direction.
That guy,
man. And that tune was actually a really great example of what you were talking about just previously, about the groove and that feel.
Yeah, man.
Because if you were doing anything else, or well, obviously sing, if he was doing anything else but that, it just wouldn't be the same.
No, there's I think one of the most integral parts of that tune for me, and having been a guy that's like had to dissect a lot of those tunes, there's constantly a tambourine going check it, check it, check it, check it, check it, and like it makes this feel so good. Check it, 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 check it. And like the drum groove is one thing, and Vinnie Colaiuta is brilliant, but like things that set up that feel, like, so there's hints all over that track about how it should be played clearly. And like that has to feel a certain way to me to be happy with it. And then that said, like last night, for example, we're playing just one of my trio gigs, and it's not a tribute. It's a gig. We're having fun. We're allowing ourselves to stretch out a little bit and sort of, warp and distort things maybe. And I remember, like, I played some stuff last night on that tune. I was like, oh yeah, this is possible. This is kind of cool. A lot of it comes with the vocal parts, because I feel like, again, there has to be a certain amount of grounding here. Mm-hmm. But yeah, there was a lot of things that sort of presented themselves even last night where, like, if you dive in, this is a great lesson as well, I think, and something that I would impart to my students back in the day, was that, like, it's really important that you know where a song comes from. Just the same way that, like, we all have to recognize that we have a history, we have a starting point, right? Know where you came from, know where you're going. And I that's never been more true for me as a lesson than when it comes to songs. One really great example of this as well is, back in Humber, when I was in this horn band, this ensemble called the Blue Jackets Required, ran by the late, great Dave Stillwell. And we were playing all these Stevie Wonder tunes, and you would listen to the Natural Wonder disc. I'm sure you've played it quite a bit, or listened to quite a bit. Everyone should play that record quite a bit because it's amazing. But it's Stevie Wonder live, and I think like 1995. And Stevie is he's so comfortable and fluid on those tunes that, like, he starts adding in different things. The arrangements are different. The way he's singing things is somewhat different, and those live recordings become iconic as well, to the degree where you're feeling like, that's what I got to do on that tune. But for me, my sense has always been, and I've certainly gotten caught up in, okay, now I'm going to do it the way Stevie does it live, because that's really cool. And that's the way that Stevie evolved that tune. But that tune is also not mine. Like, it evolved through him because it started with him. So if I chase where it started, and if I chase how it began, then I'll be able to make my own decisions that then sort of evolve the idea. Right? It comes back now to that idea where, you release a creative work into the world, and now it just has a life of its own, right? So if you follow the way that Stevie evolved it, great. That's really awesome. There's no shortage of great stuff to look up as far as Stevie goes. But if you dedicate yourself to, like, where it started, where the idea first germinated, and then follow it on your own. That's what I found to be super rewarding, playing in my own trio. Just like if it's a song like I Wish, or even if it's a song like Lovely Day, or a song like Billie Jean, even for that matter, or Billie Jean Rigby, as we call it when we do the mashup. It evolves naturally if you trust yourself and you trust your instincts. So that sort of brings us back to sort of that tribute world. I guess that's where that segue was going originally with If I Ever Lose My Faith in You. And Sting has always been a part of sort of my musical development, my DNA, so to speak. Like, it's funny, we played 2 tracks there were openers for both of the records that they were on. And both of those albums did so much to me in the way of sort of like pushing me along a musical development path. So Dream of the Blue Turtles, the first Sting album, started with If You Love Somebody, Set Them Free. That was the first album I had access to with a stereo, and I would play all those tunes on repeat. Much to the chagrin of my family. Like, why are we listening to, Love is the Seventh Wave for the 48th time today? Like, can we do something different? But like I was just obsessive about it. And then when 10 Sumner's Tales came out, of course, If I Ever Lose My Faith in You is the opening track. I listened to that album just exhaustively. I believe I had a tape, actually. I still had a cassette tape of 10 Sumner's Tales, and I wore out the tape. Like it was useless beyond a certain point. It was so stretched that like the pitch would change, and then eventually the tape was just like you didn't really hear much on it anymore.
Those were the days of buying 2 or 3 of something.
Yeah,
because you knew the first one was going to get wrecked. The second one was probably going to also, but so you had one that you could put away for the next 5 years.
Yeah, man.
That remained untouched. I used to do a lot of that.
Yeah, and something that I've gotten back into, vinyl or like anything sort of like truly analog. You were relegated to consuming an album. Like a singles market was like years off already at that point. Like we weren't even into downloading music yet. You bought an album and you listened to that all the way through. Like when CDs came along, of course you could index from track to track to track, but like tapes removed all that unless you like, and I did know in some cases of the albums that I have on tapes how long I had to press rewind or fast forward to get to the next tune.
You get good at it.
yeah, it's a really weird point to get to, and I don't necessarily recommend it, but not that we have to these days. But like it just, I became obsessive over it, and that's where the videos you played were from the Sting Sunday series that I had over Schmovid. I don't like saying the word properly.
And that doing what you did, that was quite a project. That wasn't just I'm going to throw up a video of one tune or a second tune. It was really with both feet. You were in there doing this project, and it was serious. Yeah, and
I don't like to say the name of the thing, but like if anything, it forced us all to kind of reevaluate. And these are conversations that I had with really good friends of mine over that time, because again, like all of our work disappeared. It wasn't like a club closing. It was like everybody being shut down. Like I remember I played 2 gigs the last day. It was like March 15th. I played down the road here with a trio in the afternoon for a matinee. And then I went over to play in Port Credit that night. And people were starting to talk about it. And I was supposed to play like the next night. And I got a call saying, the gig's canceled, man. I'm like, it's a day out. Like we get some money from this, right? Like I remember being super angry about it. And then, making calls for like the rest of my gigs for the next month or so. And everyone's saying, yeah, not likely to happen. So, you spend your days in a daze for a while. And then, you have to decide whether you want to come out of this stronger or whether you just kind of want to stagnate, because, it lasted a lot longer than we all ever expected. And that's how that started. I did like a couple outdoor things in like the first few months. And the first time I played, I was like, oh my God, I suck at this now. Like this, like I'm really rusty. Like it's been a couple months since I've been on stage in front of people, and I'm not really that good at it anymore. Like so that's kind of where that video series started. I was like, well, I have this now. Like I bought all this gear because I've got to teach remotely now. I got to be able to record. I have to be able to have some sort of like setup. And once I figured out how to use it and I got an interface that I could do 2 things at once with, then that's where it started. And I knew that tune really, really well. Actually, before that video wound up on my YouTube page, there was another one, and I deleted it because I'm like, I don't want to have the same tune up there twice, and I want to promote this new thing. But I had another version of it where it was me and Calvin two basses playing that tune with a drum loop. So I'd done it a million times. I thought, okay, well, I'll just put this out. I'll try it out, see what happens. I'll commit myself to like, we'll see how every week goes. I didn't have kids. I didn't have a whole lot of responsibility. All my gigs were gone. So yeah, it turned into a 20-week thing that eventually, like the final week 20, included a drummer friend of mine named Marco Spatafora and a guitar player friend of mine named Emile Dion. Which was the inception of Sound of Sting, my Sting and Police tribute. And that was it. Just, once, Marco, who's a very industrious guy, is really good at getting gigs and answering phone calls and emails and stuff, which is something I'm not necessarily great at. Doing the agency thing, all the hard stuff, I would say. But I was good at talking to people and I was good at playing. So we started teaming up and putting the project together. And now we're in like year 4 or 5. It's a slow burn, which is kind of intentional. But I think we're like somewhere between 10 and 12 gigs this year. There's a few things that I haven't posted on the website yet because ticket links aren't live. But yeah, it's a cool project. Like Sting he's a hell of a bass player, and I didn't really realize that until I started diving in. And there's certainly some parts on his tunes that I don't play correctly. I'll admit that right now. But like when
you're not Sting, so you can't. There's no. I don't know. I would say this. There's probably some things that he won't be able to play exactly as he did on those things either. Just from a musical point of view, So you can cut yourself some slack.
Well, the gist of things are kind of there, and I do listen back. And the other thing that I do a lot is I'll play with a group called Hotel California. And the Eagles bass lines I find a little bit, they're not quite as sort of, I don't want to say involved, because everything requires a certain amount of sort of focus and resolve to sort of sound like someone or sound like a sort of vibe. But like that stuff I'd dive into a lot, and I have dived into a lot because I work with that band a whole lot. So a lot of those bass lines, even now I'm thinking like I'll have conversations with a drummer and just say like, hey, do you hearing this fill happening here? And like you're doing something and I should be doing something that I haven't been. Like, can we try that? And like really honing in on stuff. I love that stuff. I love the whole mimic game as well. Like whether it's sounding like Randy Meisner on bass or whether it's sounding like Sting vocally. Like going back to like Sting bass lines as well. Like listen to what he was doing. And then his thing also was that he would play these bass lines separately in the studio, and then he would have to learn to play and sing them together, right? So certainly what you're saying is true in that he has to, maybe self-edit a little bit, maybe a little bit less on his part than someone like myself would have to. But yeah, there's a whole learning curve that way. And you could tell there was a sense of sort of like exploration, and there was like a real creative drive behind what they were playing. Like they were trying to one up each other, I guess, in a lot of ways too.
Much like the gigs you used to do, and cutting your teeth and coming up with ideas, sometimes on the fly.
Absolutely.
Just because it was fun.
Yeah, man.
And you wanted to push each other to see if you could do it or not.
Yeah. Well, we wanted to make each other laugh too, like a lot of times. So we would mess around a lot.
On that channel, do you get a lot of bassists sort of coming and saying, "Hey, listen, can you show me this? Can you send me a transcript, or can we do lessons?" Because you have a ton of knowledge, and they can see you have a ton of knowledge. It's not just I'm going to get a guy to teach me bass. They can see that you've already got that down.
You know what? I honestly, I don't get those calls. Honestly, I get a lot of comments. Some of them negative, some of them whatever, middle of the road. Some of them like, "Hey, way to go." No one really reaching out. I do get calls every once in a while to do some lessons, but it's not something I've really actively been chasing. Just because like teaching, I did really well teaching. I taught at a tiny music school in Brampton for a while when I was first starting. You're teaching like 10-year-olds, you're teaching some 30-year-olds, right? Using the open cattle call lesson thing. And it was good for cutting my teeth. And I got into some college situations where I was teaching, and it was cool. But the breaking, well, not the breaking point, but sort of the turning point there was, I started going on the road a lot more, and I had never experienced that. Like I only started, like the first tour I probably ever would have done, I was maybe like 39 years old. And we're talking like, you're away from home for a week and a half or like 2 weeks here and there. And when those things started coming up, I was faced with the prospect of like, okay, now I got to sub out of like 1, 2, 3, 4 teaching days consecutively. And I like, as much as I maybe didn't, have teaching in my heart necessarily, I didn't want to half-ass it. I didn't want to hand over my curriculum because I'd written a curriculum based on, what the college wanted me to do. And I didn't want to hand that over to somebody. Like not that I treated it as intellectual property, but I wanted to keep my students on sort of a track. And I had been part of that sort of thing for a long enough time to know that, okay, I'm subbing for this guy, I'm subbing for this guy, I'm subbing for that lady here to do this. I'm like, the subbing thing it never really excited me. Like I would come in and, okay, cool, now you have to get to know me over the course of like a half an hour or an hour, and you have to do whatever you do, and show me that you have the ability to learn whatever you're, in progress of learning. And it was sort of strange. Like it was like, okay, hey, I just met you. Go be 100%. It doesn't really happen like that, especially not singing. It's such a personal thing. So, it would always take like 2 or 3 lessons before I would even like really bug my students about singing, because it's, you're laying it out for people in that case. But, back to my whole curriculum thing, like I didn't want to be subbing it. I didn't want to be leaving my kids with some new stranger and putting them in that position. So I just figured that, I can probably afford to do it. I'm going to take a year off and see where things go. And I kept playing and playing and playing. And,
never got back to that.
Yeah. And I would get calls, and eventually the calls stopped coming. Right. So it wasn't something that I really ever pursued again. I mean, I do have a couple calls that I'm maybe even neglecting right now. I got to maybe hit some people back and just, it's a sit down and just, hey, this is what I do. This is what I think works. If it works for you, great. Any teaching that I do now is very much like, okay, let's sit down for like an hour and a half even. And this is what I got. If this resonates with you, let's talk in like a couple of weeks. If not, then, hey, we don't have to talk again, or we can just be Facebook friends and call it a day, So yeah, like teaching is, it's not really a thing for me at the moment. I certainly haven't gotten a lot of messages, other than just, the general praise or the general like, hey, this sucks, you're using tracks on YouTube thing, right?
That just surprises me so much. I'm a big fan. I'm a big fan of that project that you did.
Cool, thank you.
I think it's great, and I hope that you do some more stuff like that down the line, because I think it's inspiring to someone who really wants to be able to play tunes properly.
Yeah.
To hear someone and watch them.
Cool.
Watch them do it and say, oh, it's happening. He's really doing this.
Yeah, it's certainly a very attainable skill set, right?
Yeah. And it takes a lot of work.
Mm-hmm.
It takes a lot of work.
Yeah, there's a good on ramp for it, and you got to dedicate yourself to something that maybe pulls you out of your comfort zone, right? Practicing should never be really easy. It should make you uncomfortable. It should make you think. It should challenge you to for me right now, I've got a really great gig. It's going to be semi-regular for the next almost year and a half, and I've got to learn a different artist, at least 45 to 50 minutes of a new artist's material. Once a month at least, sometimes twice a month. And the process of learning and honing your own ability to learn, that's a whole other skill in and of itself, right?
Yeah.
And there's nothing like it.
And when you're playing, I'm just thinking right now, when you're playing, I'm gathering, maybe I'm wrong, but you're just playing the way you play. You're not playing with necessarily charts in front of you and iPads and phones and things of that nature.
Well, I'll have my iPad in front of me for trio gigs in case there's a tune. I'm a bit of a stickler for lyrics and sort of that sort of perfection thing, which is another thing about Sound of Sting that sort of comes under fire, actually.
Really?
Where they say, oh yeah, everything's on tracks. Your background vocals are on tracks. I'm like, yeah, because I'm too much of a dick to be able to hand off that responsibility. I want things to sound a certain way, right?
Right.
So that's when I sort of started to become, whatever, if you want to call it, fluent. I'm certainly not fluent in Ableton, but I know how to work it well enough to suit my purposes. Where there's a click, there's background vocals. The background vocals are very close, if not dead on, to what's happening on the record. And that's what I want to hear. In that particular scenario, for Sound of Sting, I want it to be as dead on to the record as possible. even if it does pain me sometimes where like, people, the guys in the band will say, hey, there's this live thing and the guitar player, the keyboard player is doing this. And I hate it. It sort of makes me feel a little icky inside where I'm like, I don't want you to do that. I want to play the record, and it's a conversation that's come up. It's come up several times. Mm-hmm. But yeah.
I totally get that because I learned this. There's certain things that I want to do like the record because I love the record.
Yeah.
For many different reasons.
Yeah.
And there's certain parts of it that just are inside me where I'm just like, I want it to be like that. I don't want it to be I don't want it to be any different. We can play it different another time.
Yeah.
But right now, this is the way I want to do it.
Yeah, and like if I'm listening to somebody too, like I want to hear that influence is there. Like that's what excites me. Like I want to hear that you learned the solo to Long Run by the Eagles, then like, and maybe you're doing a couple things where you're twisting and turning it to your own sort of with your own skill set and your own ability. That stuff like really excites me when I can tell you've learned something like the record, and then you're giving it your own slant. That I think is really cool. I really like listening to that. I like recognizing that you put a good amount of work into something, and also you have the creative wherewithal to say that like this isn't the way that I necessarily have to do it, but this is where it can go. Right.
I'd be remiss if I didn't ask you about your basses because
sure.
every time I talk, I think I told you I was talking with a very fine bassist here in Brazil, and he watched some of your stuff and he loved what you were doing, but he just said, "Look at all those F basses."
Yeah.
Man, oh, like his eyes were bugging out. He was enthralled. Tell me a bit about your collection.
Okay, where do I even start? I guess one fun thing to say about F-Bass is that those are really good friends of mine. George is a good friend of mine. He's an awesome guy. He's a brilliant mind when it comes to sort of crafting instruments. The way that his brain works, and he's tried to show me a couple things here and there, like when it comes to something as simple as setting up a bass, like, oh, if you just do this and look at this, you'll be able to tell if it's like, George, I'm not you, and I don't want to be you. Like I don't have enough time. I just appreciate what he does, and there's things like I would treat George very much like the godfather of the instrument. And he's been so generous, and now his son Marcel is running the business, and Marcel's been amazing, and they're all so generous with their time. They're all such great guys. And at one point in time, I think I owned the most F basses of anyone, maybe in North America. I had 6. And it was just from a friend of mine brought me to the F bass factory in like 2006 or something like that. And he was ordering a bass, and I thought, oh, this is cool. Like these instruments are amazing. These guys are really nice. Like now I want one. Like I want to be able to represent this company because it's something that I had an introduction to, and I now believe in, and I want to support. So, I have a list on my phone actually that I've like all the basses that I've owned and their serial numbers and stuff, just as sort of like a tracking method for myself. But I had 6 of them, and it came to a point where, I'm not a bass player necessarily. Like I would start to call myself a bass player maybe in the last year and a half, like to the point where I could solo a little bit and feel good about it. That's kind of where I'm at now. But like at the point where I owned all those instruments, like I could play bass lines and sing over them and stuff, but I don't know if I really deserved it. I think I was a bass owner. I was hanging out with the guys at F-Bass, like outside of the factory at one point, and someone made a comment about like, oh yeah, how many basses do you have again? And this was like, I think like a year or so ago. And I at that point said to myself, I'm like, yeah, you know what? It's too much. So I started scaling down. So now we'll go back to the beginning where, again, my dad was a player. So he would let me have access to his Japanese Hofner copy, like a Beatle bass copy. That I played a lot. And then when I started becoming interested, my dad found a Fender Jazz Deluxe at a music store in Brantford where he lived. And we picked that up, and I played that for a while. But then my dad at that time even was going to Slovenia a lot, where half of my family is from, half of my heritage. and he looked up an instrument builder out there, and got in touch with him and went to go meet him, and he built my dad a few really nice guitars. And at one point he said, would you build my son some bass or a bass? Cool, great. So we went back a year later, and that's where this guy came from.
I remember that bass.
Yeah.
Yes,
yeah.
I do. I have a picture of you playing that bass.
Really?
Yes, I do. I'll find it somewhere. Yes, I do.
There was that, and then this 5-string fretted came the next
yes,
year.
I remember that bass too.
This is a destructive bass, man. It sounds so good. I won't necessarily bore you with details like, oh, the body is this and whatever. Like it's a fan. Like we'd have to have another podcast, man.
We'll have the bass showcase podcast.
Oh, dude. The cool thing about these basses is that they all sound so unique. I have 4 of them. So the 4-string fretless, the 5-string with frets, that's sort of the same wood configuration. And then there was a 5-string Music Man style with a single soap bar. And then the last one was a 4-string jazz bass right now. And so that guy did, his name was Zaletel, Zaletelj, like traditional, like Slovenian spelling. Brilliant woodwork, like just incredible, like top shelf. They're all neck through basses. They all pound. They all sound fantastic. The electronics needed a little bit of work, so that's what's happening to the 4-string with frets now. That's off. I'm actually going to pick that thing up again tomorrow. And then like between all the techs that I know now, I think almost like all those basses are going to get sort of reworked, and they all get used regularly, thankfully. Like I will say, just as a side note, I have 9 basses in my house, which is a bit much, but I find a good excuse to use all of them at any given time. Even though now 4 of those are fretless, and if I don't have to, I don't play frets. I'm playing fretless most of the time. I just really enjoy it. Yeah, it's a better accompaniment to the human voice, I think. It's more expressive. Like I find I can get more out of it that I really like. There's also the safety net of like, if you miss a fret by like, a couple centimeters, you're going to hear a buzz or something stupid. If there's no frets there, you're not going to get a fret buzz. So it may be out of tune, but yeah, you'll get like sort of a definitively centered note. But yeah, those Slovenian basses, the 4 of those they're fantastic basses. They're so much fun to play. That jazz bass is so cool. There's a few things I'm going to use it on in the coming weeks.
Still have that jazz bass that he bought?
Well, yeah, that's the one it's getting worked on. I got to pick that up from my tech tomorrow. And then yeah, the 5-string Music Man and this bass are what I would use with Hotel California, because I mean a lot of that is just P bass with flats, and this is just a simple P bass with flats. This is one of my F basses. This is one of my 3 F basses now, the only 3 that I kept. This is just a copy of a 70s P bass. That's all it is. No bells and whistles, no active preamp, no nothing. It's alder, rosewood, a 2-piece body, and it's just a classic P bass. And I mean, you heard it here even now. Like I think it just sounds magical. I love playing this bass. And then strings is another conversation we could have, but this has the Labella low tension flats on it, which I feel these strings kind of play themselves, honestly. Like I'll start playing this tune or playing tunes on this bass, and like, yeah, I'm not really involved in this. Like the bass is just kind of singing, and the strings are just so responsive. So there's the 4 Slovenian basses. There's the 3 F basses. There's my P bass. I have a PJ from them. It's alder rosewood as well. But that's my Sound of Sting bass now. Like all the new videos that we just released for Sound of Sting, we just did some more promotion for that band. I'm either playing my, we'll get to the Fender. I'm either playing the Fender or that blue bass, that F bass. And then the 3rd F bass that I have now is something that I fell in love with years ago. Again, before I had any business even owning a bass. They make a model called the AC Classic. It's a semi-hollow, like a chambered bodied, fretless bass that was, I guess, modeled after one of the first basses that George developed with Alain Caron. Yeah, it's a beautiful bass, an AC Classic. It's here in my. Oh no, I took it upstairs. It's upstairs where I can practice with it. So I have an AC Classic 5-string, which was what I was playing actually all weekend. I played it on Friday night. I played it last night as well. It's an amazing fretless bass. It has the black nylon strings on it.
Oh, the black nylons, yeah.
Yeah. So it sounds very sort of throaty and like uprighty, and you can get a lot of stuff. There's a piezo pickup and a mag pickup in it. The piezo's a bit bright. I don't often like I play it all the time, but I don't have the tone rolled up at all because it's so snappy, and I don't really tend to that sort of thing all the time. So there's the 3 F basses. I think I've gone through all those. There's my Fender, which it changed everything. I was on tour with Hotel California, and as is often the case, if you have a day off, you're going to go and check out a local music store. You're going to try and see a local band. Take in some of the culture if you're able to. And we went to a music store. I just wanted to buy a speaker cable. I was looking for a speak-on to a 1/4-inch speaker cable. And I went and bought my cable. I went with a guitar player, and I cashed out, and the guitar player was off in the guitar room doing whatever. And okay, well, I got time. Where are your basses? Oh yeah, over in that room over there. And I turned around and I saw this bass. Where is it? Do I have it here? It's in a case somewhere. I should probably check it out. But it's a Tony Franklin signature model. There it is. I had no idea who Tony Franklin was, by the way. I'm gonna take my P bass out for a second, and I'm gonna get my hands free so I can do stuff here.
All right, great.
You can edit out all the dead air, right?
This reminds me of going into some of the music stores where they have the stuff out on display.
Yeah.
But if you hang out long enough, and the guy who owns the store likes you and can see that you're serious, eventually they'll say, I got something in the back I should probably bring out and show you. and then all of a sudden, all the good stuff starts to come out, and then the real show begins.
Oh yeah, I know too well what you're saying.
It's a great thing where it's like, is this happening? Does he have all these magical guitars in here?
Yeah. Oh man, yeah. You start getting the backroom stock. Yeah. Oh, I know what you mean. Too well.
It's great.
Yeah, man.
So tell me more about this bass.
This is a Tony Franklin signature model. It's a Fender P bass that he had modified with the J pickup here in the back, and it's I forget who makes the pickup. Someone will hopefully come along and say oh, it was this. But Tony Franklin bought this P bass with no frets, or may have had frets and he tore them out. I'm not even sure. You'd have to listen to him tell the story again. And he just went to a store and said, I want to put a P bass or a J bass pickup in the back position, and I want the loudest J pickup that you have in the store. And they directed him towards this pickup. You can maybe see the coils are black. I think that's an indication of who makes the pickup, and I can't remember right now. Of course, I'm on the spot. But I saw this bass hanging on the wall in this music store in Ohio. And I'm like, oh, what's that? That's kind of cool. I love my fretless bass. Let me pick that guy up. And I plugged it into an amp there, and I instantly fell in love with this thing. So the nature of that particular tour was I went back to my hotel, and we had a night off. And I'm like, who is this Tony Franklin guy? And I went down the rabbit hole finding out who Tony was and listened to a bunch of his videos, fell in love. And I went back to the store the next day because the rest of our tour was rained out. It was an outdoor festival thing, and there was a huge storm system rolling through, and everyone was going to get rained on for the next 3 days. It's like, okay, there's no more gigs. We're going home tomorrow. And I figured, okay, well, it's now or never. What time is the store open? And I took the tour van back to the music store, and I bought this bass. And the reason being was the way that everything worked out. At the time, when I was doing the Sting gigs, one of the F basses that I eventually parted with was a 5-string fretless. It was a 5-string VFPJ fretless. So again, same pickup configuration, and I needed the low D for the end of Wrapped Around Your Finger, right? So I'll be. Let me hit the switch. I'll be wrapped around your finger. Yo, dee, ba. and so on and so forth. So I had this one 5-string fretless bass that I was using for that one purpose, right? That was my fretless that I was using on these tunes, and it was a really great sounding bass, as all F basses really are. But then I found this, and I'm thinking, oh, I've got a toggle here. I've got that D. That's the only D I need in the entire show. So with this, this was shortly after that I had that hang with the guys at F Bass saying, hey, you own the most F basses in North America, don't you? Yeah, I do. Do I deserve to? I found this bass and I was like, okay, cool. I can ditch at least 2 F basses and get this thing. And this will suit that purpose. So this became the Sound Distinct fretless bass. And the sound guys that were mixing that band at the time were thinking like, yeah, a lot of Police stuff was recorded on fretless. There's a few fretless things in Sting solo records as well. No less like Englishman in New York. And the F bass sounded good. This bass sounds, I think the best way to describe it would be like belligerent. It's very in your face. It's a very loud, sort of throaty, aggressive sounding fretless bass. And for the Police stuff, it just made more sense. Like it was like, it needs to be growly. It needs to sound like a rock bass. It doesn't have frets. So that's exactly what I get out of it. So I've modified it a little bit. Again, George Furlanetto actually did this for me. We swapped out the bridge for a high mass bridge, and then we changed all the machine heads to lightweight machine heads. Where did I get these guys from? From Hipshot. I ordered them straight from Hipshot because, all Fenders have that natural sort of neck dive thing, right? So this thing doesn't have that anymore because there's extra mass in the bridge and there's less weight in the headstock. So yeah, when I found this bass, it essentially caused me to sell 3 F basses and reclaim my Slovenian basses, which I had lent out. I'd sort of forgotten about. And a lot of that had to do with, gaining more ability playing bass and becoming more comfortable on the instrument and thinking that like, I should check these basses out because they were pretty good. And they were handcrafted instruments made by a guy just outside of Ljubljana, Slovenia, made out of like incredible stalks of wood and sounded super unique. And so I reconnected with those, sold a bunch of F basses, got this thing. And where am I at now? So we have 3 F basses. I have the 4 Zelatel basses. I have the Fender, and then there's one more that we talked about this already in our lead up to this podcast. I'm not going to talk about that bass because it's behind me here. No, we're not going to talk too much more about it, other than just to say that it's a special edition bass. There's a limited number of them in the world. And I don't necessarily want people to know that I have it. And that's a throwback to sort of my own insecurity as sort of like in a lot of ways, still like a burgeoning or like a discovering bass player. Like I was a singer first. I'm always going to be a singer. And I think that's a lot of the saving grace of what I do. Like singing is always going to translate. It happens to be good that I'm pretty okay on the bass guitar at this point in my life. But the singing thing is really where it starts. Like if anyone sees my trio play, like I could rip a solo on whatever and like it could be okay. It could be pretty good even, and nice and melodic and groovy. And I love my OC5, so I love doing the octave thing. I love doing the Pino Palladino octave thing. Fretless with an octaver in particular is kind of a thing. I could play the coolest thing in the world, and at the end of the gig, and I'm perfectly cool with this, the only thing they're going to say is, man, you sang great, right? So it's easy to maybe even get hung up and say, like, oh, I was playing too. But, the singing thing is always what they're going to notice first. And it's cool. It's totally a point of pride. But the bass thing came second, and I know a lot of really fantastic bass players. I know guys who are bass players, they do it for a living. They do things that I can't comprehend yet. And like they're just consummate professionals, and their creative outlet is the bass guitar. It's those guys and thinking that like, yeah, I can't call myself a bass player next to Rich Brown. I can't call myself a bass player next to Mark Rogers or Calvin Bille or guys like Steve Pelche here and lives in Hamilton. And like a good friend of mine, Dan Canelio, these guys are just fantastic artistic bass players, right? I want to hear them play solo bass. They're those kind of guys. And it's really because of that I'm like, you know what? This is a very special, like exclusive thing that I own now. And I won't talk about it just out of respect for guys like that. Like, like they didn't have access to it. I found out it was coming to Long McQuaid. I'm like, I'm taking that. I can't afford it, but I'm taking that. So anyway, yeah, I can't afford not to take it. It's a piece of art. I do play it out sometimes, so it's not like I'm trying to keep it a super secret. But yeah, and all these instruments kind of have their own vibe as well. That one has a great vibe, the one that shall not be named. And you try to get sort of like different things out of it and make it sound like you. And yeah, that's the 9. That's all 9 of them there. So the 4 Zelotels, the 3 F basses, the Fender, and then the question mark.
Question mark.
Yeah.
I have to say too that something that's I think unique to you is that you're a vocalist, you're a bass player, but really, well, to me you are.
Okay.
Because let's put it this way: you serve the song well.
I hope so.
You do.
Yeah.
I can tell you that. The other thing that you have is that you also, and I don't know how this really happened, but you also became, in my eyes, a really great performer. Like sometimes I've seen you not playing bass. I've seen you just singing.
Yeah.
With bands, and your performance chops, how you present yourself, how you not only how you sing, but your stage presence, your professionalism, how you interact with the rest of the band and with the audience. I think it's you have a really high level of that. I'm going to give you an example.
Go for it, and thank you.
Yeah, but it's true, and I'll give you an example. Like one of my favorite times in life was when I was working downtown, and I stumbled across your group playing at the Jazz Bistro. It was the Soul Nannies.
Yeah.
And the Soul Nannies seemed to have been. It was like, you remember, right? And it was.
Oh, yeah.
I can't remember how many weeks you were there, but I kept praying, like, please, A, let me have a shift on this night, and B, let the Soul Nannies still be there because nothing lasts forever. Things change and all the rest. So that was my thing. It's like, let me have this shift, and please let the Soul Nannies be there, because it was magical, and you were amazing, and the group was amazing.
Thank you.
The audiences, I remember it distinctly. Everyone was like standing on the tables and so into it. It was great, not only great music but a great show. Yeah,
Andrew Craig had a lot to do with that. I don't know how much you had a chance to interact with Andrew.
I didn't, but I obviously I listened to him a lot and got to know him through his music that way.
Yeah, Andrew was. I mean, we fell out of touch over the years. He moved out of the city, and as far as I know, he's still working and doing his thing. But I think I can still confidently say that even like back then, probably as very much with today, he's a brilliant musician. Like. He would come by Joe Mama's if he was in town, and we would have what we would call Around the World with Andrew Craig. He could pick up or sit behind any instrument on the bandstand, and he could rip. Like he could genuinely rip and follow along with any tricks or whatever you threw at him on any instrument that he had in his hands. It was just nuts how good that guy is. And how creative and how focused and driven he probably still is, and certainly was at that point. And I think as far as working with a musical director, he's got to be at least in the top 3 of the guys I've ever worked with. The guys that really know how to pull a performance out of you, or listen to what you're doing, make you question it, so that you go deeper. That's something I really, really appreciate about Andrew Craig. And so like when he's in the bandstand, he's calling the shots. You got to bring it. You have to be there 110%. So yeah, like all of the quirks and all that stuff came out of all of us. I remember one thing in particular with the Soul Nannies. We'd have iPads in front of us because we were doing like B-side Earth, Wind and Fire tunes, like absolute jams that like maybe even very few people knew, but like we could sell that material to anybody. Like it was just it was a hot band. It was a shit hot band.
It was.
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying. People went crazy.
Yeah.
Because it was that good. And it was unexpected.
Yeah. I remember like and it was just sort of the same thing with Suga as well. Like we would try to challenge each other. We would try to push each other. And I remember there was one time we were doing like a call and response thing with the audience, and I had a drawing program on my iPad, and I drew out the response. I wrote out the response for the audience. I was like, just something, another stupid gimmick or whatever. And Andrew was like, So I got a reaction out of him once. I've done, I don't know how many Stevie Wonder tribute things over the last little while, because I often get compared to him vocally. And one of the first ones I ever did was with Andrew. And I had been singing a lot of those tunes for a long time, and I started rehearsing them with Andrew, and like he tore down everything I thought I knew about Stevie Wonder tunes, and brought up some really some performances out of me that I thought were inspired. So yeah, like the once you get to, I think, the point of diving that deep into the material that you're playing or you're recreating, you have no choice but to sort of like lay back and connect with it, and allow your own vocabulary, your own musicality to sort of shine through, and to just let the music come out of you with your own skill set and your own knowledge. Again, like this is just going back to what we were talking about before, like how well do you know the source material, right? Because in those situations, it was demanded of us that we know the source material like the back of our hand 2 or 3 times over, right? So when you're in those situations, you got to bring it. You got to know that, like, you got to trust in your own instincts. You got to trust in the band, trust in your director. And he created that environment so we Andrew. He was amazing for that. I only hope to get to work with him again. But yeah, Soul Nannies was fun because we all, again, we all trusted each other to such a great extent. We rehearsed a lot for that gig. And then by the time we got on stage, it was just like, okay, we can now tie our shoelaces and do the tunes at the same time. What's next? So,
well, and I can tell you, as an audience member, like I was devoted. Like every week,
nice.
Every Friday that you were there, I was there. I was bringing people with me. So you got cool. You just got to come. You got to come and hear these guys. It was a great moment in life.
That's cool. I'm glad that gig still comes up every once in a while. You're not the only person to mention the Soul Nannies to me in recent history as well. But as far as the whole performing thing goes, and sort of like the performance ethos, like I have to say, a lot of that is very selfish. Is super selfish. Like the tunes that I play now on a regular basis, the tunes I was playing last night, the tunes that we played in the Soul Nannies, the tunes that we played in Suga, like we put in time on those tunes. Like we had our 10,000 hours easily with each tune, by the time we got to it. So it became, at least for me, a practice in how can I make this feel really good and fresh for me? Can I continue to connect with the material and get it out of my system in a way that felt authentic, not only to the source material, but to myself. Right. And that's a feeling I try to live in, even for trio stuff. Like if we're doing something like, we do this a lot. Like I love playing Don Henley and Eagles tunes, clearly. But like Heart of the Matter in particular, I love that tune. And it always becomes like epic to me. Like this is, I think of the Indie Irie version, and I'm like, yeah, that's really good. I'll take pieces from that. I'll take pieces from Don, and I want this to feel really good to me. And the fun thing is, or the cool thing, I guess, at that point is that once you're so, in my case, I might even say like enthralled with sort of recreating these things in a way that feels authentic to me as a player. Audiences connect with that. Like they see that you care, and they like that immediately captures people's attention. For the most part, there's certainly times where you're playing in your wallpaper, but for like, again, like I can't really care too much about what someone else thinks, because I'm only really in control of myself. I'm only in control of what I can do or what I'm in the process of. So yeah, I want everything to feel good. Even if I'm sitting here playing Lovely Day on a podcast, like I'm thinking like, okay, well, does this sound solid enough? Am I outlining the time? Anyway, it's really about caring, not necessarily caring what people think, but caring enough about the material to deliver it in such a way that reconnects with people. There's a reason we do these tunes. There's a reason that all that, like the song list I sent you here to reference before we started, there's a reason all those tunes are there, and it's because people know these tunes, they sing along. Like as soon as I start doing, Like we're already in it, right? It's that Victor Wooten thing, that interview he did where he starts playing Freddie's Dead, and they're like, oh yeah, oh cool, yeah, that feels really good. That's what I'm chasing, right? So I think the performance comes naturally from that. When you're engaged and you're invested, people pick up on that, and you don't need to worry about. I mean, I shouldn't say this because I got laughed at all the time for being a shite dancer, and I don't mind. It's just part of who I am. But like, oh, you can't dance worth of the shit. But like, thank God you can sing really well. Yeah, man, that's all I'm really worried about, right? I want to sing these tunes that you came to hear because you love them. And, you know, if you're singing along, that puts more pressure on me. Like, oh, crap, now he knows the words and he probably knows the phrasing of this tune better than I do. Well, let's see if I can get it right for these guys, you know, and also, again, feel satisfied. But yeah, it ends up being like a super selfish process.
Well, you know, it's really interesting that you say that because you were talking about really learning the tunes, really understanding them deeply,
Yeah.
You know, and you have audience members, probably more than you think, who really are at that level too. They can't play them.
Yeah.
They probably can't sing them well, but they know the tunes that deeply as far as how they feel about it. They know all the little nuances. They live for those moments in that song.
Absolutely. One of the coolest things that happened when I started doing more of the tribute thing, whether it was Eagles, and certainly actually a lot because of the Sting and the Police, because it's not a hugely popular catalog as far as the tribute thing goes. Like, again, we're sort of sitting comfortably at that, like, sort of 10 to 12. We'd like to see the 12 to 15 gigs a year. Sure, that would make us happy. But if we did too much more than that, we might actually lose our own minds because we, like individually as musicians, all of us kind of need to do different things to maintain our own sanity and maintain our love of music. And also, like, if I just played If I Ever Lose My Faith in You the same way over and over again, and I didn't get to explore what was possible based on my own vocabulary, I might feel a bit shortchanged. Not that I feel any ways about doing it when I do it with Sound of Sting. Like, there's certainly a challenge in that. But when you do things like the record, especially in terms of Sting, again, it's not hugely popular, but the guys that are into it, they're really into it. Like, I'll get all kinds of comments after a show saying, oh yeah, we were at this Police picnic, and oh, we've seen the Police like a bunch of times. We've seen Sting a bunch of times, more so than I ever have. That's for sure. But the feedback starts changing. Like, if you're in a bar playing Roxanne, cool, yeah, man, great show, yeah, cool. But if you're doing a tribute show and you're doing like Fields of Gold or something that you would never do in a bar, you know, the feedback, or sort of the guys approaching you at the end of the gig are like, man, what beautiful poetry, you know, not like, hey, you sounded great, or, which is fine, but like, what beautiful poetry set to music, you know, like it gets deeper. Like, there's a whole other level to it. Yeah. When you get people who are like, they're coming to see a show because, you know, you're specifically doing something that was part of their own upbringing, much the same way that like Sting was a big part of mine, and it's in their DNA the same way that it's in mine, and you start like really connecting on a deeper level. There's something really great about that. Like, it's really lovely to start having those conversations, as opposed to the surface level. That sounded great. Cool. I bought a couple beers and now I'm at the door. Cool. I hope you had a fantastic night. But, you know, when the conversation becomes like, oh man, like, what do you think that song is about? You're like, okay, cool. Yeah. Now we're peeling back a few layers here. And I love that, man. I think it's really cool. It's something that's become more evident in doing the tribute thing. And, you know, tributes are kind of all the rage right now in Canada and North America. There's like 7 Eagles tributes. There's Styx and Journey and Foreigner, and guys that I know are doing really well with that stuff. Tons of ABBA tributes. It's really fantastic music. Yeah, for me, it's very much about, again, like further exploring these things and like connecting with people on a different level. It's cool, man. It's been a lot of fun. It's been like sort of the next evolution of the working world for me.
Right. And I think just based on everything you've done and the trajectory of things, you'll have another bunch of evolutions too. You're not even close to being done yet. So
yeah, I hope so.
No, there's lots more to come. Can I play Roxanne for a minute?
Yeah, go for it.
I'd love for everyone to hear your version of that too.
I'd like to hear it again too. It's been a long time.
All right. Let me get that. Let me go to the live section here.
Roxanne, you don't have to put on a red light. Those days are over. You don't have to sell your body to the night. Roxanne, you don't have to wear that dress tonight. Walk the streets for money. You don't care if it's wrong or if it's right. Roxanne, you don't have to put on a red light. Roxanne, you don't have to put on a red light.
Now they got to go to the website to hear the rest.
Yeah, bass playing was not great in that video, but well, and also all 3 F basses that appear in that video are gone now. They've all been traded off or sold off.
See, there's a reason for having these legacy recordings. Not just for the music, but for the basses that were on the wall.
Yeah, it's funny. Every time I do something to promote, like if I do like a new video or like a photo shoot or something, not so much recently, but certainly like from like a year ago to like 2 or 3 years before that, every time I would do something to promote something or other, a project, photos, video, like within weeks, I got rid of the instrument that I use on that promotion, like within weeks, or I changed something like super drastic. So like that one, there was the fretless, the 5-string fretless that was on the wall behind me there, that it was a Sunburst Jazz fretless, VF Jazz fretless, and then it became a Seafoam Green PJ fretless, and then I sold it. And then that 5-string that was next to it, I sold that to a bass player named Pat Kilbride, who's a phenomenal Toronto bass player that I'm working with on a project now. Like a couple months ago, that Ash Maple bass, that was gone. I think I traded that toward the AC Classic 5. That's gone now. Yeah, and anyway, I could go through all this history. That stuff to me is like, yeah, that's gone, that's changed, that's different.
Yeah.
That's exciting to me too, right? There's like, that evolution is super exciting to me. Like, oh yeah, how did I wind up there? And now, it forces you to sort of reevaluate where you're at now, and I like that.
It's an amazing journey. And let me ask you, I guess before we get going, what do you see for yourself for the future? What kinds of things are you thinking of?
I am thinking that I feel like I'm getting better at bass now in ways that I'm new to. A lot of that has to do with being forced way outside my comfort zone and having to learn. Again, that one gig in particular that I mentioned, where I'm doing like a whole new 50-minute set of some new artist that I never ever would have thought to sit down and learn. That's been a big thing for my playing, like really diving into some different material, figuring out different ways to get around the bass. That stuff is really coming through in my playing in the trio gigs, where there's no real guideline necessarily, other than, again, to service the tune. So that stuff is feeling better than ever. I want to do some video and some promotion for my trio at some point soon. I'm already talking with some people about that. It's just a matter of sort of saving up a bit of money. I think, again, Sound of Sting is still evolving. That group, like, we're doing a bunch of different tunes, like we're looking at different things and we're trying different sort of set orders and things and finding sort of the magic in that set, and getting more comfortable. I want to dive into that material as well some more and like learn that more closely, even though Sting is a fantastic bass player, and I'm sure he's on the records between takes, he wasn't playing things the same because he was just so good and it was just trying different things and they were pushing each other. I just want to dive into stuff and learn what I know better. All of that translates really well into, like I said, trio gigs, and like in a situation where, okay, there's nothing holding you back here. Like, have some fun. I want to play with people. I want to be like just a support, like not even necessarily singing background vocals. I want to play bass and explore that more. I feel like there's so much more of that world that I've yet to really crack open. I still feel like I'm getting better. Like I don't feel like growth is stopped, and that has to do with vocal as well. Like I'm trying different things. I'm constantly sort of stretching the ideas that I've had and sort of evolving that. I don't know, it's a pretty exciting time. Like I'm looking at my weeks ahead and I think, okay, well, maybe I'm not being challenged so much next weekend doing this gig that I've done a million times before, but like, how can I find some more magic in that? Like, there's a lot of growth happening right now. I want to keep doing what I'm doing. Like, I feel like it's a good path to be on. I want to work more. So, you know, just putting out feelers for stuff like that. It's a very exciting time. There's a lot of growth happening. Like, and, you know, there's, I might have told you the story really quickly, and I know I digress a lot and I tell a lot of disconnected stories and I go all over the place, but my back went out really badly a couple of years ago before my son was born. And, like I could do nothing but crawl from the bed to the bathroom and then back and, be spoon fed in bed. And I couldn't move. Like it was painful to lay down even and like sit in certain positions. So, and that was at least 2 or 3 months of my life. Thankfully it didn't last too long because we have a really good team of, physiotherapists and chiropractors and acupuncturists up here that we work with, both my wife and I. But that like having to stop, it wasn't schmovid, it wasn't anything other than my own body that was beginning to fail me. And one of the surgeons that I saw that was about to let him perform a procedure on me was like, yeah, you know, like human beings, man, you know, if you don't work, you die, right? And that really stuck with me. I mean, like I feel like there was a theme in our conversations even today just about, you know, evolving and being important. Whether it's letting a song evolve through your own musical vocabulary, your own musical sensibilities, but like just evolving and growing. If you're not forcing yourself to do some work or forcing yourself to do some sort of something challenging, something that changes you, something that changes your perspective, changes your approach, you're going to stagnate and, you know, you're probably not going to die. You're just going to, you know, you might just sort of plateau and stay where you're at. I'd feel like right now for me, like I'm doing the opposite of that. Like I feel like there's a lot of growth happening, and it has to do, I think, with the fact that I have 2 kids. So if I want to leave home, it had better be, pardon my French, but it better be fucking worth it. Like I like being around my kids. They're cool, right? So I want to push myself, and I've been successful in pushing myself, and the growth keeps coming. I don't know exactly where it's headed to, but I know that things are changing, and my perception and my ability and my ears are expanding, and I'm super excited. I feel like this could be where I'm at for, you know, the next few years, you know, this level of growth. So yeah, that's kind of where I'm at right now. I want to keep playing. I want Sound of Sting to do better. I want to keep playing Eagles tunes because that's fun. And it's a great gig. They're very busy, and I get to do some great traveling with some really nice guys. Yeah, I don't know if that effectively answers the question. That was really all over the place, but yeah.
No, it does. I mean, you're enjoying life.
Yeah.
And I think that's the greatest thing. And you know, I've always said is when you stop learning, that's the end. That you're in the rocking chair.
Yeah.
It's over. So
yeah.
So, you know, I don't think you're ever going to stop learning. That's just not your nature.
Oh, I hope not. I mean, maybe one day we'll all retire to some beach in Mexico somewhere, but you know,
and then we'll learn something on the beach. We're not stopping.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Love it.
It's great. What a pleasure to talk with you and hear your stories and get to know a little bit more about your music and your journey. We're going to do this again for the basses sometime.
Basses alone.
We're going to do we're going to do it's all about the bass podcast.
Maybe at that point I'll be at a point where I'm like, you know what, mystery bass, you can finally come to light now. Let's talk about this. Enough people know about what it is, and
it's possible.
Yeah, you never know. You never know.
But thank you again. I'll make sure to include all the links to all your stuff, you know,
cool.
in the description, so people can come and see your Sting stuff, come and hire you for some gigs.
Hey, why not?
Why not? And who knows? Maybe you'll get a slew of people on the internet saying, "Hey, why don't you teach us online?"
You never. I'm open to just about anything at this point if I can find the time to do it. Yeah, and thank you, Mark, for inciting this conversation. I think this is really cool. I don't get to talk enough or geek out enough about like what I do, and because I'm still super excited about it. Like I said, there's a lot of growth happening, and talking about it really helps too. And I think it's like this whole podcasting format thing is it's great that there are guys like you doing it and allowing guys to, explore a little bit more.
I appreciate that.
Thank you.
Okay. We'll see you next time.
Take care, man.
Okay.